Our next speaker is Charlotte Trontin. I'm just going to present her again. She's a scientific officer in EPPO since 2019, and she's in the diagnostic team and supporting and working with all the panels. And she has been involved also in the Validate project. And very important, she's the one who has organized all the presentation and all the part of these 4 days of panel and the workshop.
Okay, so the plan is just to quickly present you the standard that we have on the organization of interlaboratory comparison. So the standard is PM7122, and it has been revised recently, so that's why we were thinking just to give you a quick update. So this standard specifies the requirements for a plant pest diagnostic laboratory to be able to organize interlaboratory comparison. The requirements for the development and operation of interlaboratory comparison for plant pest diagnostics. And at the origin, it was developed taking into account the element of the ISO standard 17043, conformity assessment general requirements for proficiency testing. What are interlaboratory comparisons? So basically, you will have an organizer, and this organizer will provide the identical samples to all the participants, and then the participants will test the samples, and then you can then compare the results that were obtained by all the participants. And there is two different types of interlaboratory comparison. Test performance studies that are really aimed at evaluating test performance, and then you also have proficiency tests that aims at evaluating the laboratory proficiency. And so you here can find the detailed objective of each comparison, and of course sometimes you can use TPS to evaluate proficiency, or you can use PT to evaluate the performance of a test, but these are not the main objectives. So clearly, just to highlight that we have two types of interlaboratory comparisons, and the goals are different for these two. So PM7122 describe the technical requirements for the organization of interlaboratory comparison. So it includes the capability of the organizer to organize the test performance studies. So of course, you will have details about what should the organizer have in his lab, what are the resources that he needs to organize the interlaboratory comparison and stuff like this. Then you have details about the planning, because of course all those steps should be planned in advance, and the organizer should be able to describe all the tests and think about all the possible problems that he could encounter when organizing the TPS. So there is a very important phase that is the planning. And then you have the preparation of the samples. So how do you choose the samples that you will send to the participants, and also how you will ensure the homogeneity and stability of the samples to be sure that each participant receive the same sample. There are some guidelines about dispatch of the sample as well. So what's in the middle is in the end of the participants, so there is not much details, but then there are information about how you will analyze the results and how you will report them. And so this was already, all this was already in the first version of the standard. But thanks to valid test again, we could enrich the standard. So during valid tests, there has been 12 test performance studies that were organized. This covers 11 Pest, 83 tests, a very huge number of participants and more than 10,000 samples. And this really allowed all the organizations that were involved in the organization of these TPS to gather knowledge, to share knowledge on how to organize test performance studies. And all this knowledge has been used to publish a book, which is a critical point for the organization of test performance studies in microbiology. And this book is free access, so if you're interested, you can have a look. And of course, all this is about TPS, but some of the points that are relevant for TPS organization are also relevant for proficiency test organization. There has been also a deliverable from work package 2 about guidelines to improve these specific standards, and in particular the statistical aspects. And in that regard, there have been recommendations about what should be the composition of the panel of samples for test performance studies, and also how to statistically analyze the TPS results. So really briefly, for the revision of PM7 122, so what we've done is add information on the composition of the panel of samples. And I think what is really important, at least for test performance studies, is that you think really ahead what you want to tell with this TPS, what are the performance criteria that you're interested in, so that you can adapt your panel of the panel of samples to these questions. Then we add also information on the statistical analysis of TPS results for results for interlaboratory comparison, and I have to say it's mostly oriented TPS. And then also further revisions were made based mostly on the experience gained for the organization of PT and TPS. So also the EUL experience in a PT organization was taken into account. And we also have changed a little bit the structure of the standard. This is minor. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Charlotte.